To first properly understand how Korea earned its name, we first need to go back to the earliest recorded history of Korea and its predecessors, which are the roots of its name. Around the year 2333 BCE, there was a god by the name of Hwanung, who grew tired of how boring his existence grew, and craved to live in the valleys and mountains of the earth. To do this, he requested assistance from his father, Hwanin, the Lord of Heaven, who granted him the spirits of the rain, wind, and clouds, and his quest to find land on earth. So he descended from the heavens to a sandalwood tree on a mountain to which was aptly named Pektu, simply meaning white-headed mountain. Hwanung quickly accrued his 3,000 followers to use at his disposal and created the city of God, named Cincy, and named himself King from Heaven. Hwanung began hearing prayers, although from within a cave near the sandalwood. There was 2 inhabitants, a tiger and a bear, who came to the tree every day. The bear prayed to become a human female, whereas the tiger prayed to become a human male. Hwanung heard their prayers and gave them a trial to test their worthiness. He bestowed upon them 20 cloves of garlic and a single bundle of markwood, instructing them to live off this and only this for 100 days. The first to willingly leave would not receive their humanity. Unfortunately for the tiger, all the bear had to do was begin its hibernation period, and soon the tiger gave in to its baser instincts and went hunting. The bear therefore won, and was granted the name Ungyo. Hwanung quickly fell in love with Ungyo, and they wed and gave birth to a demigod child named Tengung Wangam, otherwise known as Tangun. When grown up, Tangun left his father and mother and founded a settlement in northern Korea called Gojoseon. Go meaning ancient and Joseon meaning morning calm. Ancient city of the morning calm, known today as Pyongyang. Skipping many centuries ahead, where Gojoseon became a very powerful and culturally significant kingdom, until it ran into some complications, specifically with China. They had expanded rapidly from the Daedong River to the Liao River, and drew the ire of the Western Han Dynasty of China and the Chinese state of Yan. The Chinese declared war on Gojoseon, but ultimately Gojoseon ended up losing much of its territory by the Chinese in 108 BC, where the war concluded. To which the Emperor of China, named Wu of Han at the time, sent to erect 4 commanderies, which were essentially controlled districts for administrators to watch and control the people through. This quickly failed, however, and only one ended up being created, called the Leilang Commandery, which did last quite some time, about 400 years. Commandery was very, very significant, as it is how Chinese influence entered the Korean peninsula through Confucianism. The city-state responsible for dismantling the Leilang Commandery was of the name Goguryeo. If you remember Cincy from the tale of the tiger and the bear, it is speculated that the city of God, or Cincy, is this free Korean state named Goguryeo, which quite literally just means very high castle, very similar to the modern name of Korea, meaning lofty beauty. Goguryeo was formed between the 1st and 2nd century AD near the Tong River basin of North Korea and southern Manchuria, and had little conflict. First of which was the Goguryeo Way Wars, where China attacked Manchuria and northern Korea. Then after a few centuries, there was the Goguryeo-Sui Wars that lasted approximately 17 years, where Goguryeo won and reclaimed much of its land from the previous war. Unfortunately, this well-claimed victory was short-lived, as only 31 years later, 3 kingdoms would ignite the peninsula into devastation. As the southeast and southwest of the Korean peninsula was largely untouched by Goguryeo, it gave rise for other kingdoms such as Baekje and Silla. These 2 city-states quickly absorbed as many confederacies as they could possibly gain. However, there was one region in particular named Gaya, which was right in betwixt both of these city-states. Now, this land wasn't really anything special. It was a mostly rural land with iron, which was quite useful for wars. However, it only inhabited farmers. Shila knew it wasn't strong enough to conquer Pekche, so it formed an alliance with the Tang Chinese in 648 AD to assist them with annexing Gaya. This worked well, a little too well, in fact, as not only did they defeat Pekje, but they later on defeated Goguryeo, which was easily 6 times their size. Although this did not bode well in the long term for Shila, as the Chinese had betrayed its former ally and conquered them, pushing them below the Dedong River and conquering anything above it. However, Shila did reemerge, but as a much weaker reflection of its former self, and subsequently set itself back to a previous era, not of kingdoms, but of tribal clans. Not only that, but in a very similar fashion to the Three Kingdoms War, 3 clans were created. The Park, Kim, and Sok clans, which fought to claim power, and eventually Kim clan won and created the monarchy of Shila, unto which they created a social structure referred to as the bone rank system. The top bone rank was the sacred bone, or blood relatives, or directly the king. Below them was the true bones. These were lesser royals and members of the Park and Sok clans from the previous clan wars. Below this were lower level politicians, advisors, and the like, and then under them were the plebeians.